I am the only one that can connect you with Luke.
Where is he?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 7 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs, WTF moments, and references to the comics, so we will break it all down. Jessica Jones says she's not carrying this entire episode herself, so Daredevil has to really step up. We actually got a lot more Defenders references, with them directly referencing Luke Cage and what he is busy doing right now, working for Mr. Charles Val in the CIA. So it sounds like we'll learn a little bit more about Luke Cage in the other Defenders stuff heading up for Season 3 during the actual finale. Like, that's how they'll end the finale, is that they'll tease Defenders stuff again. But the episode was titled The Hateful Darkness, a reference to both Daredevil and Kingpin and the prayers that Daredevil was saying during the episode. Very Catholic of him, very classic Daredevil to be saying more prayers during an actual episode in an actual church. During the title this time, there was no music over the opening credits. Sometimes they'll do that, there'll be like a pop song or there'll be absolute silence just to undercut the tone of the episode. And it was very, very serious vibe at the beginning because it picked up right after the next morning of the riot at City Hall. As they pan around the city, you can actually see the silhouette of the new Avengers Tower, Val's new Avengers Tower, which is now being occupied by those new Avengers characters, the Thunderbolts that we'll see in Avengers Doomsday. Daredevil listens to the fallout on the news using his enhanced hearing, all the different stations. Very easy for him to pick up a whole bunch of news stations that way. They use David Bowie's Ain't It Easy to ironically show you how Mayor Kingpin is dealing with the chaos, but they also use it as a metaphor for all the different character storylines, all the way up to like Karen Page being booked into the prison. Pretty much all the characters, good and bad, Kingpin, Daredevil, Karen Page, everybody is just going through it in this episode. And as Heather Glenn was saying, it is only going to hurt more in the finale. You also notice that when Kingpin gets ready to go see Karen Page in prison, he puts black on again in a white coat over it instead of just pure white like he's been wearing before, which is meant to feel more like classic Netflix Daredevil because a lot of their references they make when he sees her are back to the Netflix series. Karen Page then gets booked into prison after the task force arrested her. Not her first time in jail. This is meant to be a callback to her being arrested at the very first episode of Daredevil Netflix Season 1, when Kingpin tried to have her framed for the murder of her co-worker at one of the businesses the Kingpin was using to launder money for the undertaking with the Hand. When Kingpin goes to see her in her cell, this is the first time that they've met in person since Netflix Season 3, he references the people she's taken from him. That's mostly a reference to Wesley, like he's always thinking about Wesley. Wesley was like his surrogate son. But he's also thinking about Vanessa being killed recently at the ring because he knows Karen Page is with Daredevil, and he blames that on Daredevil and Bullseye, not on himself, even though technically it was his fault. It was his shard that he deflected into her skull that killed her. We get a great back and forth between the two of them, get real snappy. He views her and Daredevil as the evil ones. He's the righteous one trying to bring order to a chaotic city. All villains think this way. Every villain is the hero of their own story. Thanos is the best example of that. Even all the Thanos was right memes out there, Thanos thought that snapping half of all life was the only way to fix the universe. Kingpin seems like he's ready to snap half of New York City to make it better in his eyes. Speaking of snapping people, he literally wants to snap Karen Page's neck here as he grabs her and starts to strangle her out. Mostly to make himself feel better, but he does let her have her one phone call. In the United States, usually people who are arrested for most crimes, not every single crime, but most crimes, at least get one phone call, which they usually use to call their lawyers or loved ones. And in the case for Karen, that would be both, technically. Her really good lawyer is also her lover. But at least in this case, the reason why she calls Cherry instead is because he takes the news to Daredevil because she can't call Daredevil directly, otherwise the cops would be able to locate him. But at least what Kingpin is hoping here is that he will be able to use Karen Page to find Daredevil, which kind of winds up working, just not in the way that Fisk expected it to work.
Matthew Murdoch for the defense, Your Honors.
We get a banger scene between Jessica Jones and Mr. Charles waking up to her just waiting for him in an apartment that maybe the CIA owns or he owns in New York City. Probably the CIA owns and he just uses. The reason why he fell asleep reading a magazine all about Pan-Asia is because that's where he would normally be headed next for Val on CIA business. You can let me know what you think their operation in Asia would be. Something in China maybe, or something in the Pan-Pacific region. But the really big thing during this is to confirm what's happening with Luke Cage. So they actually talked about this after last week's episode, so we already knew that Luke Cage was actually away working for Mr. Charles Val in the CIA, and that's why he wasn't around in their house last week. Mr. Charles basically confirms that in their conversation where he says, I'm the only person that could put you in touch with Luke Cage, and then confirms that he is out of the country on CIA business. My assumption is that we'll get some references to this in the finale, maybe like a Luke Cage cameo scene, but whatever he's doing with the CIA and whatever he's doing working for Val just feels like too big of a subplot to completely wrap up in next week's episode, so they'll probably wait to Daredevil Born Again Season 3 to like fully address that. Like, oh, I've been busy working for them doing all these black ops for the past couple of years to protect my family. That is basically what Mr. Charles says. He's working for us so that you don't have to, and your daughter is safe with him. Basically, Luke Cage doing what they ask him to do so that the CIA and the government leaves Jessica Jones and Danielle alone. So this is also why she can't kill him. But he does try to talk as fast as possible to save his life because he's not totally sure that she won't kill him. When he says he knows all about her powers being on the fritz, that's probably the task force that told him like Powell because of the way they zonked out mid-fight with Powell. There are a lot of people that were confused about that. Does Powell have superpowers? How did he withstand that punch? It just wasn't clear to, I think, some people that her powers were on the fritz, or they didn't listen to her when she actually explained that to Daredevil right before their fight, where she said that her powers had been on the fritz since Danielle was born. This is also probably going to be one of her subplots during Daredevil Born Again Season 3, and it's probably another Tobey Maguire web block situation a la Spider-Man 2, where in Spider-Man 2 he had his existential crisis and his powers just didn't work for a little while until he figured it out. He also confirms to her that the weapons were his, but she won't be able to pin them on him, like he won't be in trouble because they blew them up literally in last week's episode, so there's no evidence to actually hold against him. But he also hates Fisk and wants him gone, like Val obviously wants Fisk gone, so he helps Jessica and Daredevil by tipping them off about Kingpin's plans to kill the governor because the governor plans to revoke the charter from the port so that they can actually go after him and kick him out of office. This is also to set up Bullseye's subplot in the episode too, because Jessica doesn't go to do it for him, otherwise she'd be the person that would have gone to the governors to protect her. Cherry then gives Daredevil Karen Page's message in that Fisk came to see her, and the idea that he should stay away from the vigilante court because it will basically be Fisk's trap in him trying to pull him into the limelight so they can throw him in prison and torture him for the rest of his life. It's not till later in the episode that he comes up with the idea after he talks to Karen Page to fall on the sword, so to speak, sacrifice his identity and pull himself into the public so that he can actually try to tell everybody around the world all about the crazy stuff that Fisk has done to the cameras in the news. Jessica Jones also gets real stabby again and tells Daredevil to kill Fisk in so many words, just like Karen Page told him, like Jessica Jones also going full Punisher, just kill the dude, get rid of him. When she says she can't stay and help because of Danielle and her and Luke's daughter, that's just to set up Bullseye's redemption to give him a reason to be in this episode. We need somebody with a particular set of skills to go protect the governor, somebody who's really good with knives maybe. When he goes back to Punisher's lair and meets with Bullseye and gives him his big call to action, he reminds him that he absolutely hates his guts because he killed Foggy, Father Lantom. He even gives a shout out to Agent Nadeem too, from back in the day.
I hate you for Foggy. I hate you for Father Lantom, for Agent Nadeem.
But this is also Daredevil giving Bullseye a chance for redemption, penance, paying off their conversation from earlier this season. Like Bullseye kept saying, he wanted to redeem himself, he wanted to be a good person. So Daredevil is basically telling him, prove it, like if you really meant what you said, here's your opportunity to do that. When he also says forgiving him, forgiving his enemy, is also one of the big themes of this season, putting the past behind them. He tried to have this same conversation with Fisk in last week's episode, but Fisk was not hearing it at all. We get another big person coming back from the Netflix series. Brett Mahoney is back. He posted so many pictures of himself behind the scenes last year. We knew he'd been coming back for a long time. It was just a matter of which episode he was coming back in. Now he's the chief of detectives, moving up in the world, and he's one of the few cops who are not on Team Kingpin and helps Karen Page briefly meet with Daredevil so that he can come up with his plan to actually out Fisk and all the terrible stuff that he did in public by sacrificing himself, essentially. The whole idea here is them trying to use Fisk's media circus against him because all the cameras are broadcasting all over the world on a live feed, so he can basically say whatever he wants to say during the trial and uses that to recount all the really shady or full-on illegal things that Fisk and the other task force members did during the events of Season 1 and Season 2 so far. But if it wasn't clear, Daredevil coming into the public as Matt Murdock here basically puts him on Fisk's radar and the task force radar, so they will have him dead to rights, so he's kind of sacrificing himself, so to speak. Not his life, they're not going to kill him. We know they're going to do Daredevil Born Again Season 3, but I think this is putting him on the path to actually get arrested, outing himself, his identity as Daredevil. Because you remember, Daredevil has technically done some illegal things, breaking the law. So if he were to subject himself to the law, like do the legal thing, he would actually have to go to prison if people found out that he was Daredevil. And it kind of seems like that's where we're headed. Early theory is that his plan for getting rid of Fisk, getting him to leave, will be outing himself as Daredevil. Like, that will all happen in the same moment. There are a lot of questions about this earlier, too. The reason why Kingpin hasn't outed him already, Matt Murdock being Daredevil, is because he has so much dirt on Kingpin, and he will release it if Kingpin tries to out him. So as long as Matt Murdock is fine with going to prison, he has all this dirt that he can use on Kingpin. Then Kingpin and the district attorney discuss Karen Page's trial. They reference the attorney general, the governor getting involved. The reason why Fisk doesn't care is because he's sending somebody to kill her later in the episode. Then they bring in Heather Glenn on the case so that she can mess with Karen's trial the way she did for Swordsman earlier this season, doctoring the forms to make it easier for them to arrest her. She does seem like she legitimately worries about Kingpin dealing with Vanessa's death, like she did care about them as a couple. Doesn't mention she stole her earring, but Kingpin figured it out and gives her the other half, like the pair to match. When she says this is going to hurt, it's not her foreshadowing her death or anything like that, like she will survive into season 3. We know she's going to be in season 3. I think it's meant to be more of a reference to the events of the finale, like the finale is going to hurt because it's going to be like an all-out brawl. They pick up with Daniel Blake and BB's storyline. They're still at his family home worried about Buck killing her. He figures out she was working with Karen Page this whole time, and she calls him out for trying to pervert her reporting back since season 1. The City Without Fear is also a reference to Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, his name in the comics. She also tells him that Kingpin killed her uncle Ben Urich during the events of the Daredevil Netflix series. They spend this whole first part of the episode basically with him trying to turn on Kingpin and Buck, trying to do the right thing and saving her, which he eventually does do. She references Jason Bourne, so that film series is canon to the MCU. Does that also mean that Matt Damon is canon to the MCU?
When you come see Jason Bourne, when you Batman, and
Robert Pattinson's coming?
No, Jeremy Renner will be there.
Then the address he gives to Buck is where he's waiting for him, that he eventually tries to trick Buck, basically helping BB escape eventually. I know there are going to be a lot of questions about this storyline. Did Buck actually kill Daniel Blake? Right after the episode aired, Michael Gandolfini confirmed himself that Buck killed him, and the showrunners told him before they filmed episode 7 that we've changed our plans and we're going to kill you in this episode. Originally, Daniel Blake was meant to survive to episode 8. So it was like a brief period when they thought about keeping the Daniel Blake character around a little bit more, but I don't think he quite landed quite as much with audiences, and they decided the character wasn't working as much, so they wanted to use this for a really impactful death, to feel like a tragic death. He was sacrificing himself to save his friend, BB, but he had also made his bed with Kingpin, and now he had to lay in it, a la Buck killing him. But it did seem like Buck was really disappointed to have to do it. Like, this is more emotion that I think we've seen on Buck's face than any other point this season. So R.I.P. Daniel Blake, press F to pay respects, pour one out for him. And now that we know they're doing Defender stuff next season and they're doing a completely different storyline, you can let me know which other characters from this new era, Daredevil Born Again Season 1, Season 2, you think they're going to kill off before the end of the season. There's still a lot of people that Bullseye can kill. Obviously, Matt has a no-kill rule, but Bullseye does not have that rule. He's totally fine killing people. When Kingpin likens Karen Page to the wounded soldier, the idea is he's hoping this will help pull Daredevil into his sights, into the public, like out of hiding, which she kind of does, but not in the way Kingpin was expecting. He was not expecting really good lawyer Matt Murdock to show up and haul all of his dirty laundry in the task force dirty laundry in front of all the cameras, recording this live for TV. Kristen McDuffie starts by representing her at the trial. She questions the whole definition of vigilante in the Marvel Universe, the last resort for justice. Punisher is definitely pumping his fist in the background, definitely agrees with that. They have their big Matt Murdock really good lawyer reveal, and we get a couple of moments of him in full really good lawyer mode. It has been a minute since we've seen Matt Murdock actually do some lawyering in a courtroom. If you don't remember, the original plans for Daredevil Born Again Season 1, when they completely changed the Netflix plot and they tried to decanonize all that stuff and they wound up firing that whole team, their whole plan for doing the TV show was going to be more of a weekly legal procedural type of TV show, like a Law and Order type of TV show, where he would have been doing lawyer stuff all the time. When they mention playing for a jury, that's a reference to the governor who is watching the news broadcast and hears about all the shady stuff that Fisk and the task force did, and that is the go for her to get him out of office. They wind up ending the trial for the day. It's going to spill into the finale. That's when tomorrow is the finale, and he uses his Daredevil radar sense to detect that the task force cops are just waiting to jump him the minute that the cameras are off. They have a firefight with a couple of the good cops that try to help him get out being killed, and a couple of the task force cops being killed. Daredevil winds up taking one too, but he is fine, none the worse for wear. The problem will be in the finale, he probably wouldn't hold up as well in a fight one-on-one against Kingpin, which is why I think they're setting up the idea is going to be more of a talk no jutsu situation, where he winds up taking Kingpin down really good lawyer style, as opposed to say like Daredevil Netflix Season 3, when there was a lot more punching and actual fighting between the two of them. We will see how that goes down. I mean, there's got to be at least a little bit of a fight between the two of them, but they kind of did that in last week's episode. Like, that was the big rematch fight that they had, which is why I think the actual finale takedown will be more of a talk no jutsu situation. Bullseye then saves the governor from one of Fisk's assassins. It's not Buck, unfortunately. I would love to see Bullseye go up against Buck. I definitely think that Bullseye is way more badass and would definitely kill him pretty quickly, though. We get a great cat fight between Heather Glenn and Karen Page in the prison interview room, where she goes to see her and tries to get the paperwork for her that she got for Swordsman to convict her more easily. Game knows game, and Karen calls her out, and then they just go back and forth insulting each other, using really, really wounding things, pieces from their past. She tries to wound him with knowledge of Matt Murdock, like, I've been sleeping with him this whole time. I really love this guy. He's really hard to understand. Can you help me psychoanalyze what's going on here? It really, really pisses Heather Glenn off. She starts to lose her composure a little bit. When she mentions Karen Page killing her brother, that's the car accident that she kept secret for so long during the original Netflix series, her wild past before she came to New York City, like before you met the Karen Page that you knew during Daredevil Season 1. She also mentions Karen killing Wesley, which was also from Season 1 of the Netflix series, and she mentions her relationship with Punisher, which is really what sets Karen off, which is kind of funny. When Heather asks her, does Matt know, she's talking about Karen's relationship with Punisher, which Matt does know about. Like, he is aware that there was something between the two of them. You can definitely tell there they're trying to feed some crumbs to all the fans of Karen and Punisher being together. When Karen mentions Vanessa ordering Bullseye to kill Foggy and Matt hurting her emotionally, she starts to have another Muse hallucination and really starts to break bad, slapping her upside the head like she really starts to lose it. They're really making it seem like she's going to go full Lady Muse in the finale, but we will see if they push that to Season 3. You can let me know in the comments how long you think it's going to be before Heather Glenn tries to kill someone in cold blood as Lady Muse. Maybe she just breaks bad in the finale, but then she goes full Lady Muse in the costume, like puts the comic book costume on during Season 3. Matt then manages to limp back to Father Lantom's church again, same church that we've seen all season long and all throughout the series. Red lighting everywhere. He says another prayer, very Catholic of him, very classic Daredevil. And the other joke here about God coming to him in his hour of need is Jessica Jones showing up to help him just as he says that. She's not God, but this is kind of funny the way they played in the episode for a bit of a joke. This is also that moment from the trailers where she says, "You better walk because I'm not going to carry you," which is just another reference to her trying to carry the show. There is an actual one true God that does exist in the Marvel Universe. He's called the One Above All, but he's so powerful that I never expect the show to ever actually invoke him in an episode, just references. Most of the gods that we see in the Marvel movies are like Thor and the other gods during Thor Love and Thunder at Omnipotent City, all the different religions. They're all very, very powerful. Not all the gods are the same power levels, like not all gods are created equal, but all of them are tiers below in terms of power from the One Above All. One of the other good comps to that too, like in terms of actual power scaling in the MCU cosmic characters, is Lady Death. She is a cosmic entity, like the personification of death. You can't kill an idea, you could trap death, but you can never actually kill her. She is also not as powerful as the One Above All, but like she's more powerful than a lot of these other regular gods. What would Daredevil say if he came face to face with Lady Death? He would probably ask her to bring Foggy back. Wouldn't that be the other way to bring Foggy back? The Hand could resurrect him, or Lady Death could just bring him back. Somebody get Aubrey Plaza on the phone. They're still filming Daredevil Born Again Season 3. There's still time to do it. That is if he's actually dead and they're not trying to fake us out and he won't show up during Season 3. There were a couple of Foggy Easter eggs that we saw on set recently with new stuff they're filming, but we'll talk about that after the finale. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and if you spotted any Easter eggs or references to the comics that I didn't talk about during the video, just write them below in the comments. My full episode 8 finale video will post next week after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Big reminder that next week is the finale. They're already in the middle of filming season 3. We already know a bunch of the Defenders are back. They've already dropped a whole bunch of pictures of it. I've already done a full breakdown of that. Everybody click here to learn all about that, and everybody click here for my finale video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it.